Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the World Bank Group, let me first thank the organizers for recognizing the role of insurers in supporting sustainable development at this year's annual meeting, and how the prudential mandate of supervisors can dovetail with this objective. Insurers play a critical role in supporting resilient societies and sustainable growth when they act as either entrepreneurial risk takers or long term investors. Indeed, insurers are unique in cushioning individual shocks, which would so often push people back into poverty or hardship. And they are set to play a growing role in addressing climate change. Insurance creates important price signals, which the IAIS and the Sustainable Insurance Forum actually have highlighted in their recent report on climate change impacts. And I am convinced that more transparency and more data will provide the right signals and help shed light on the nonlinear impact of sustainability shocks that are affecting insurance business models. Regulators are recognizing this, and this is why some of them have teamed up to create the Network for Greening the Financial System, which we joined last June. We need to integrate in a rigorous way the implications of climate change into regulatory frameworks to safeguard long-term financial stability and sustainability, notably that of insurers. Insurers are also instrumental as investors. Reserves must be invested safely and profitably to protect the customer's claims and strengthen solvency. However, we also need to integrate sustainability considerations into the asset side of the balance sheet. Quality, climate-friendly infrastructure can support this investment objective. Infrastructure investments can provide long-term, stable, and low correlation income flows while reducing global risks. It will be key to achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals by 2030 while opening new markets by supporting productivity gains and consumer power. Financial regulations in most countries, however, do not differentiate infrastructure investment, let alone quality climate-friendly infrastructure, and this mostly for lack of evidence on risk profiles. Indeed, many G20 countries and other selected countries with important insurance sectors have only partial or no special treatment for infrastructure. The World Bank has, however, conducted some studies using large samples of infrastructure debt, and our findings suggest that infrastructure risk, especially in developing countries, may be lower than usually perceived. In fact, if regulations were calibrated, current regulations were calibrated to reflect the low default risk and high recovery rates of infrastructure debt over the last 30 years, a significant amount of regulatory capital could be freed. This favorable credit performance, by the way, is even more pronounced for projects in green sectors, as those defined in the green bond principles. So we think that there is evidence to make a case for exploring lower capital charges for this asset class. This view actually resonates with two recent reports: the Financial Stability Board's recent evaluation of the impact of regulatory reforms on infrastructure finance, and the just published report of the G20 Eminent Persons Group, the EPG, which has a specific language on that. Speaking of G20, let me also give credit to Mr. Juan Paso, Superintendent of Insurance of Argentina, for engaging the insurance community on this discussion and having convened the G20 Insurance Forum in Bariloche. Finally, we are very encouraged by the inclusion of a separate assessment of infrastructure finance in the last field testing of the ICS. I hope this exercise, taken together with the findings I just mentioned and other data that are emerging, provides a solid empirical basis for discussing the possibility of a differentiated capital assessment of infrastructure investment in the final field testing next year. In sum, Insurers will be ever more critical in protecting households and business against an increasing range of risks, including those resulting from climate change. And both supervisors and regulators are at the heart of such a discussion. So in this context, the prudential recognition of the favorable features of infrastructure credit, notably of quality climate-friendly infrastructure in developing countries, always based on hard evidence, will be a very relevant contribution. Thank you very much.